Love is a very complicated concept in our society. It can either be a beautiful thing that lifts you off your feet and mesmerizes you in a state of uncertainty and excitement, or it can be a very tragic thing. It can crumble around you and leave you in a state of isolation, heartbreak, and sadness. But nonetheless, love is very, very complicated. But what makes it so good is how it changes in form. What I mean by this is how love can come in many different shapes and sizes, from the kind that's generic and almost predictable to the unexpected and warm kind, from the smooth and soft-spoken kind of love to the misunderstood kind, that tough love sort of feeling. It connects us to each other in so many different ways, and also in ways some would have never expected. It can be formed through basic means, or it can be created through means of tragedy or heartbreak. This concept is demonstrated beautifully in the 2019 romance film Waves by director Trey Edward Schultz, a film that answers the question of what we can depend on during times of hardship, times of need: love. The film follows 18-year-old Tyler Williams as we see him navigate through the everyday life that consists of caring for his girlfriend, Alexis, dealing with the pressures of pleasing his very strict and oppressive father, all while juggling his wrestling sport, to which he's hiding an injured arm. Throughout the movie, we are shown the repercussions of dwindling mental health due to the lack of love Tyler's father gives him, and as a result, he ends up committing a heinous crime and is given severe consequences. But in the midst of all the strife and anguish, new love sprouts from the younger sister Emily, not only with his significant other, but with her family again. But now that we have the summary out of the way, I'd like to talk more about pivotal characters in the film that contribute to my previous claim of how love is the driving force behind most of the film. A character that I've already discussed thus far is our protagonist, Tyler Williams. Tyler Williams' character on paper fits your typical main character: loving girlfriend, suburban household, a sister, and two parents that love each other unconditionally. Sounds nice, right? The truth is that isn't how the story goes. His father, Ronald Williams, is portrayed as always distant from his son, but somewhat there. Throughout the movie, from a narrative perspective and also a visual standpoint, he's shown to be very distant from his son, but somehow always at arm's length. These two characters are very important to the main theme of the story, or at least part of it. The theme of how love comes in all shapes and sizes is applied to the father and son's relationship in the form of tough love. Tough love is made to be this unsentimental approach at loving or caring for someone, but it doesn't always work. There's a certain plot point I'd like to touch upon, two actually. Scene one being the tough love aspect in which his father reprimands him for being disrespectful, and the other being when Tyler finally tells off his father and leaves home. For the sake of time, I urge anyone to view the scenes themselves as like time is being considered. The film is free for anyone to watch here on YouTube at these timestamps. But these are prime examples of the claim of love coming in different forms, but in this instance, the ugly kind. Us, the viewers, know that Tyler's father isn't pushing his son because he hates him. He only pushes him because he wants good for his son. He wants Tyler to bask in his accomplishments and take the opportunities that he never got growing up. But as we can see, he pushed too hard and was the main contributor to Tyler's fate during the film. Too much stress that we as humans try to bottle up comes out in the form of anger and almost sometimes resentment. The point is that we need love to tackle problems such as this, and unfortunately, this is an instance where it was too late and the wrong sort of approach. Tyler ultimately succumbed to his pressures and suffered the consequences, all because his father couldn't be his shoulder. For many people who have seen the film, there's a point in the film in which the perspective changes. The death of Alexis is called into court, and Tyler is sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole within the next 30 years. Everything in Tyler's life is at an all-time low, and then we switch to Emily, Tyler's sister. Many who have watched the movie know of this controversial decision to focus the entirety of the story into the little sister's point of view. I personally think that this was the best decision for the film moving forward, and is the closing knot to the claim of how this story demonstrates that love comes in all shapes and sizes. And with Emily's predicament, we finally delve into storage and Eros, familial and romantic love. But I'll start with Eros first. The family is more separate than ever. Tyler is in prison, his parents' marriage gets testy, and Emily is still here. Just a side note, but throughout the first half of the film, Emily isn't entirely focused upon. This may have been a choice from the director, but to me, it's representative of the title itself, Waves. I'll dive more into that soon. But moving on. In the wake of all this strife, Emily meets Luke, a normal guy who, just like her, is currently dealing with familial issues. But even with all of the family trauma both have endured, they bond from this. They learn to nurture the pain and continue to grow together. Some instances of these points can be found through two scenes. The first scene being their first encounter, and the second, Ronald, Emily's dad, and Emily herself sitting down and discussing how they truly feel. This leads me to that second part, storage, or familial love. Ronald is deeply affected by the sentencing of his son. Not only that, he begins to feel his entire family falling apart. His marriage is hanging on a thread, and his daughter's off doing her own thing. For once, that control that he thought he had is tarnished, and without the thought of constantly being in the driver's seat, his sense of security is ultimately shaken. But there's one scene in particular that I'd like to cover. No timestamps needed. Spoilers, of course. The scene is set. Ronald and Emily take a trip and both decide to sit and share a heart-to-heart. For the first time in the entire film, Emily is sharing with her father her true feelings about her brother Tyler and how she could have prevented so much. She noticed the signs, she saw him follow Alexis, and she knew that something horrific would happen. And yet, she stayed put. She froze.
I don't know what happened, I kind of just froze.
Baby.
It's just so crazy, because if I just would have gotten up, if I just would have gotten up, then I would have went up to him and stopped him, and she would still be here, so it just...
Fault.
Yeah, it is.
No.
She's angry at herself and angry that she's related to such a person as her brother, calling him evil and a monster over and over and over again.
It's not your fault.
It is.
It's not your fault. Emily. Hey.
I hate him so much. I hate him so much. What he did is evil, Dad. He's evil. He's a monster.
She's deeply affected by the ordeal and doesn't know for sure if she can move on.
How does
Has every
somebody
right
do
to
that?
leave. Do you hear me? But your brother, he's not a monster. He's not evil. He's just a human being.
But Ronald retorts.
I know the pain that you're feeling right now. Believe me, I know it. I think about your brother every day. The things that I could have done differently. But we can't change it, you know? All we have is now. All we have is now. And I'm telling you this because I love you. Holding on to that much hate will destroy a person. And I'm not about to let that happen to you. You have so much love to share with the world. And so much life yet to live. Hey, you remember Papa's favorite scriptures? It said, hatred stirs up strife. But love covers all offenses. And I love you so much, baby girl. Come here.
This is what Waves is. In a figurative sense, Waves represents the way things change as time goes on. Like the ripples and cracks and drawings in the sand, they soon become washed over. This is a perfect example of the term. Here, we see how Ronald is deeply affected by his choice in parenting Tyler, the downside of that tough love mentioned previously. But his walls are down this time. He finally decides to take that step back and empathize with his child, the first time he's done so throughout the film. He sits and listens and understands entirely why his daughter feels that way. But just as Proverbs 10 through 12 states, hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. All we as human beings can do is our best. So the best that we can do is choose love over hate. In every scenario, in every conflict, and in every lifetime. This is a beautiful movie. Hands down, one of the best films I've seen in modern days. Not only in a figurative sense and a narrative sense, but also in terms of visual appeal. The cinematography in this movie is out of this world. The way the movie starts with Emily and ends with Emily on her bike, the aspect ratio changing halfway through the film to symbolize the perspective change, even the more intimate moments like Emily hanging out of the window or Tyler and Alexis sharing a moment in the ocean. Or it can even be the smaller things, like this glimmer of green shining on Tyler's face, which can be left up to anyone's interpretation, like how red and blue are somehow always showcased in certain scenes early on in the film, and how the green can be symbolized as the turning point, the change that's about to occur. Either way, a lot of thought was put into this film, and I truly admire the impression the movie leaves on the viewer. The movie trusts that the viewer can interpret certain situations, and that's what makes the movie good in terms of show, don't tell. It doesn't dumb down certain situations and tells the story in a way that doesn't contradict its purpose. It's supposed to tell a compelling story filled with complex characters in a situation that simply can't be sugarcoated for viewers who are in search of a cohesive narrative. This very much could and very much has happened in many different families around the world. And to me, that's the point. And that is why I think that Waves is one of the most emotionally intelligent movies of the decade. Thanks for your time.